Where's Mary gone?
She's still here.
Well, I can't see her. Why can't he see her?
Oh,
okay. So let's get started. Good evening, everyone who is joining us on both Zoom and Facebook. Welcome. I'm your JourneyWomen editor, Amanda Burgess. And this is a new thing that we're trying. We're going to be producing a talk show after every single one of our issues of JourneyWomen magazine. Our past 2 months have been focused on all the many different shades of love. And this is our behind the scenes talk show about those 2 issues. I am here with 3 women, all seasoned solo travelers, and 2 of them are JourneyWomen Advisory Council that's newly launched. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves in a moment, but if you keep housekeeping notes on how tonight is going to run. First, each of the women that you see on our panel are going to introduce themselves and share a little bit of the stories that we wrote about in our most recent issues. Next, we're going to have a lively discussion broken up into 3 segments, aligned to our JourneyWomen values of we seek, we learn, and we teach. And if you have questions on Zoom, just type them into the chat as we go along, and I'll make sure your questions get answered. And same thing on Facebook, write your questions in the comment section on this video, and we will answer your questions as we go along. And then near the end, we will open it up to general Q&A. You can ask us anything. We may or may not answer. We don't know. We'll see. So let's get started. Mary, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, yes, my name is Mary Clark. I'm from the Detroit area in Michigan, and I've been a part of JourneyWomen for close to 20 years, and it's been a wonderful community for me to have resources of trusted individuals, and it's just been a pleasure. Do you want me to go further, or is it just introductions right now, Amanda?
Introductions, but one of the stories that we wrote about in your memoir was about a cross-country motorcycle tour that you took with a former flame. Do you want to tell everyone who's tuning in a little bit about that story?
Yes, so it was 2017, and it was a year of closure for me. I was 60, and I wanted to go into my 61st year with answers to questions that I didn't have. And one of the answers was this person who had made an impression on my heart, and we had not spoken for about 27 years. So I had an old phone number. I didn't know if it was working. I had a brief conversation with him about 3 years prior. I was in a relationship, so it was just very brief, but he told me the challenges that he had. So that was the thing that stuck out in my mind was he okay? But the other thing was I needed to clear this man out of my life or see if there was anything there. So I sent a text, a very professional text, just indicating if this was the person that I was seeking, please contact me. If it wasn't, my sincere apologies. So within about 3 hours, he responded. It was him, I was me. We ended up having lunch about 2 weeks later. My heart still had the same impression, but I had no expectations. And this man had a motorcycle from my memory, long time before. He was an avid motorcyclist. And so he took this annual motorcycle trip. And over the course of the next few weeks, we, talked about his trip. And he asked, what might I be interested in going? This was an opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit better and to see if a relationship was possible. So a short journey to Kentucky, which is about 3.5, 4 hours away, just to see if I could handle the trip. I handled it beautifully. We decided, okay, I'm ready for the trip from Michigan to Florida and back. So we planned that for late July, early August. I didn't tell him it was my 61st birthday during the time. And so when we met up, I had a work commitment, so I had to meet him in Cincinnati. I flew there and he was already there and joined him. And it was 2 weeks of the most exhilarating, up close and personal to not only this man, but to the earth and to the wonderful sights and sounds of our wonderful world on the back of a motorcycle. And I have to tell you that not only did I reinvigorate my desire for this man as a person, but I just fell in love with nature and fell in love with myself too, because this was an opportunity that I would have never had it not been for him. This was an opportunity that I would not have taken with anyone else, because I knew he was very skilled at driving his motorcycle, and he had both our safety at heart. And I just enjoyed being with him. So I'm writing a book about it, more details in the book, but love does continue.
And now, Mary, had you ever pictured yourself doing something like that, getting on the back of a motorcycle and going cross country?
No, and I don't think anyone that knows me would have imagined. So, I'm a world traveler. I've been everywhere around the world in a plane, but on a motorcycle, never. So I thought the worst that could happen was, we get on this trip and decide that we cannot absolutely stand each other. And I would have had a good trip. And, as a solo traveler, you know how to survive. So, I would have jumped on a plane somewhere and come on back home. But it was totally the opposite. We had the most respectful and wonderful time that two people could have, and got a lot of attention too, because two seasoned individuals on a huge gold wing Honda with a trailer got a lot of attention, and it was very enjoyable.
I bet it was. Paint a picture for us. What's it like being on a motorcycle and traveling the roads of America?
Well, you get to understand nature very closely. We went through several rainstorms, and so you get to smell and see nature really up close and personal. And of course, you're hugged up to this, 6'2" hunk of a man all the way. So, it's not bad about that.
I love it. I love it.
But it's in one stop, we actually fished for our lunch. It was this place in North Carolina where you actually fish for your lunch. And then we went to a park and we had a Coleman stove and we cooked our lunch. And during that same excursion, when we were going to the grocery store to buy some things for lunch, we ran into some individuals who he knew from Detroit that also worked where he did in Detroit. And so as large as the world is, who would have expected to meet someone in North Carolina when we were fishing for our lunch? So it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Amazing. Now, Mary, for the benefit of those tuning in who may not have read your story yet, I'm sure they want to know what happened with the gentleman.
Well, love, and I describe this man as the love of my life, because there's some people you meet and their heart stays with your heart. And what we learned is that our lives are parallel as far as love. We still keep in touch with each other and in the land of COVID every day because we want to make sure that we're okay. But we are dear friends, and it's sometimes you have to accept that love, even the love of your life, is not perhaps the person that you're meant to live happily ever after with. You just live happy, he lives happy, and you're both just content. So still love him. He still loves him.
Amazing. Thank you, Mary. Joy, can you give us a brief introduction?
Yes, of course. My name is Joy Fox. I live on beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia. I was born in Scotland, brought up in England, lived through World War II, emigrated to Canada in 1958, lived in 3 provinces, and now have settled on the island. And I've been with JourneyWomen about 15 years. I think it was somewhere around 2005 or 2004, something like that when I joined. So Yeah, and it's been great for me. Travel is definitely one of my passions, and whenever I can, I link the travel with one of my other passions, something like gardening or knitting or painting. So I've done a lot of sort of special interest trips in my life, but managed to, enjoy my solo time during those times when there's other people around. So I was scheduled to go on a trip to Spain next year and do a tour with a choir who were going to sing our way around Spain. And, that had to be canceled for now, but maybe it will still happen. It just depends. I'm kind of waiting on that one, but I'm, just waiting to get back into my international travel. But for now, I'm going to focus on British Columbia and what it has to offer, and it has to offer a lot. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Joy. So the story we wrote about with you was back when you lived in England before you came to Canada, and you were a young girl whose engagement was broken, and you headed off to Italy for some romance and friendship. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Tell me about it. Well, I was engaged to be married. I'd been going out with John for 4 years, and I was coming up to my 21st birthday, and we kind of, planned to be married around that time. I was madly in love with him. I mean, we were an item and had been for quite some time. And he got a job in London and went to an office party and got involved with a girl there and wrote me a Dear Joy letter saying that he'd fallen in love with somebody else and he wanted the ring back. So I had a few months of, crying and weeping and heartbreaking stuff for my family anyway. And after a while, I had a little time in the country, and when I came back, I sort of felt a bit angry, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? The gossip in a small village, everybody's saying, oh, look, she got jilted. And I thought, no, I got to get away from this, so I got to do something. And talked to my brother who also worked in London and said, can you sell the ring for me? And he said, sure. So he sold the ring, and of course my ex-fiance was unhappy about that because it was a very beautiful family heirloom for his family. But I thought, well, I deserve this. So I decided that I was going to go to Italy. And my brother had been to Venice and brought me these beautiful earrings in somewhere around 1954. And I thought, so Italy kind of sprang to mind. I didn't know what I had in mind when I went. I just thought, well, I'm going to get out of England for the very first time in my life. I'd never been anywhere. So it was really quite a huge adventure for me. And I wasn't looking for romance or anything. I just wanted to feel attractive again and loved and just appreciated. So that was kind of my feelings when I escaped from the village for a couple of weeks to, beautiful Italy and the Italian Riviera. So it was pretty exciting, actually, getting down to the coast and going, and it was before the channel, so we had to go over on the boat. And, taking the train across France and Switzerland and getting to Italy onto the Italian Riviera and Rapallo, which was a charming seaside town. And I loved it on site. And I met a couple of girls, and we had a meal together when we got to the hotel, and we said, well, let's have a nap and then we'll all go out dancing tonight. So I said, okay, I'm up for that. But I fell asleep and they couldn't wake me, so I must have been really tired. And I thought, well, I'm going to go dancing come hell or high water. I had a pretty dress with me, so I put it on and wandered up the road and heard this music coming from a dance hall that was, kind of over the ocean. And it just looked to be, that's what Italy should be, dance halls on the water. So I walked in and thought, well, I'm going to find my friends here because it was pretty close to where the hotel was. But I didn't really see very many women in there, but I was faced with a barrage of lovely dark brown eyes all gazing at my blonde self in the doorway. And before I knew it, I was led to a table and I don't know whether it was water or what it was. I don't think I was drinking anything in those days. It might have been water, but I danced all night, and there was a lineup around the hall, and it was sort of what I thought Italy might be like. So it was quite wonderful. And eventually one of the guys sort of kept jumping the queue, and eventually he shooed everybody away, and that was Luigi. And he was absolutely handsome, probably one of the most handsome men I've ever seen or been out with in my life. And he took me back to the hotel, walked me down very respectfully, and he was very sweet. He didn't speak any English, but he called me Gioia all the time that I was on the Italian Riviera, and it was so sweet, you know. It was, I thought, oh, well, I'm not just plain old Joy anymore, I'm Gioia now. So yeah, and he turned up the next morning, and he had his little scooter, and every morning for the holiday he took me on the back of the scooter, and we saw, you know, lots of places on the Italian Riviera. He took me to Santa Margherita and Portofino and up to Milano and Turin, and all the little places in between, Zoali and Camoli, and I just had a wonderful time with him. He showed me, you know, Italian restaurants and same-sex toilets in the middle of a field and things like that, which I had never experienced before. I had my first pizza there. It was just a wonderful trip. In the afternoon, we'd go down to the Lido with some of his friends and the two girls that I had met from the boat, and we all had a good time together. And it didn't end after the holiday. I was not madly in love with him because I knew how my heart had been broken by John, and I didn't want it to be broken again. So I kind of held back and thought, well, this is absolutely wonderful. It was not quite real, you know. It was something that doesn't really happen to a little girl from a village from, you know, in Essex. But anyway, he said he was going to stay in touch. So my birthday came around in October, and I got this most beautiful big package with watercolor painting of me in it. I'd had photographs taken and given him one, and I've still got it hanging on the wall here. It was so beautifully done, and, you know, a lovely romantic telegram. And he sent me tons of black and white photographs that he'd taken throughout our holiday together. And it was quite wonderful to know that somebody that I felt attractive again when I got home, you know, and he'd given me the confidence back that I had lost by being jilted by John. So it's all worked out very well. And we stayed in touch. He sent me a panettone cake at Christmas, and we stayed in touch for, until the next year when I said, why don't you come over here and I'll show you my side of the world. So he did. He came and stayed with me for a week or two, and I showed him London and, you know, and all our area in Essex and surrounding areas. And we had a lovely time together. But the kicker for me was we had already agreed to move to Canada the following year, so I knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And I've always felt that it was such a really special interlude in my life. I've never forgotten it. I've never thrown any of his photographs away or anything he gave me. I have everything still, and I want it buried with me. I will never get rid of it, you know, as long as I live. I'll never get rid of it, because nothing like that ever happened again. It was a one-off. It was just a wonderful, wonderful interlude. He treated me so well, and so respectfully and affectionately, and it was just wonderful. But unfortunately, I, you know, came to Canada, and that was the end of that. So.
But you have one amazing story that I'm sure everybody listening and watching will agree could be a movie. It's so perfect in every way. Like a really good movie.
Yes. George Clooney needs to take the part of Luigi.
Yes.
Because he looked like George Clooney, you know, a young Clooney. Pretty close, yeah.
We do have a question asking if you've spoken since, you and Luigi, ever.
No, I spoke to him wrote to him up until the time we left for Canada. But after that, I think we both sort of said goodbye, because we knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. His father had been a resistance fighter during the war, and, you know, he'd been shot in the garden in front of his mother and the children. And he was also a very strong Catholic, which I was not. And, you know, Catholicism then was a great mystery to me. But I think we both knew it wouldn't work. But sure, I would love to know what's happened to him. And I've thought about it often, and been back to Italy again, you know, a couple of times, and been to Milan and wondered and thought, what would I do if I ran into him? But I never did. So it's just a wonderful memory.
That would be too perfect, I think. And Nadine, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely. So I'm Nadine. I'm originally from Montreal, and being someone who's very spontaneous and adventurer, I had no plans to move to Toronto, and suddenly an opportunity came on to my life where I was asked if I wanted to do the job I was doing in Montreal, but in Toronto. And I thought about it, and then within 24 hours, I said, let's go for it. Because I had remembered my mother telling me that she had an opportunity presenting itself when she was younger. She never took it. And there's often in her life, she was wondering, I wonder if, and I wonder if. And I said, I don't want to go the wonder if route. So let's just go for it. And if I don't like it, I can always move back to Montreal. So here we are 20 years later, I guess. I guess this was my destiny to be here. So yeah, so I've always been a very a spontaneous kind of person. Just like life is like an adventure for me, to discover and experience all kinds of different things. And so when I moved here, obviously I was alone. So already there, this was I guess a solo trip in some way, arriving into a town that you don't know anybody and have to learn to make new friends. I had one friend that was here when I moved, and then I had to, I guess, create a new network of friends. So yeah, so this is my story. And then when it comes to traveling, this is not something like traveling by myself. It's not something that happened overnight for me. This is something that eventually later, after being here for a while, there is one thing that I wanted to do, and it was to keep special moments, to do special things, but not all at the same time. Because you see, I had just moved here. So I didn't see Niagara Falls and all of these different touristic attractions, the CN Towers. And I decided, you know what, since I live here, I'm gonna spread all of these adventures so I don't do everything all at once. So I waited 3 years after I moved here to go to Niagara Falls. I just did other things. So I like to, make, I guess, an agenda of adventure. So that was really, really like my first tiptoe into creating experiences for me. And then eventually I brought it to a different level. I was like, why don't I just go away by myself, have a little getaway in the Muskokas, going up north. And that's when I guess I fell in love with traveling on my own. The luxury of being able to do what you want, when you want, how you want, how long you want. I mean, hello. So yeah, so I did a little overnight in the Muskokas, rented a little bed and breakfast. I figured this is the best way to go into a town and find out about it. So when you go into a bed and breakfast, the people who are welcoming you into their home, they're normally loving their town. So they're going to tell you all about the hot spots and the fun things to do, or not, if you just want to go there to relax. And I remember I didn't bring anything dressy or anything like that. And I decided, why don't I celebrate this, my first time of going away? And I went to the fanciest restaurant that was in that little small town, wearing my jogging pants, not dressed at all. And I didn't care. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna, stop myself from having an activity because of the way I dressed. So it was kind of a little bit interesting because I was the only one, I guess, underdressed, but I had a huge smile and I was extremely excited about that first experience of doing something by myself in terms of travel.
Nadine, you have an interesting life philosophy around milestone birthdays.
Mhm.
And we did write about that in your article. Can you tell everybody a little bit about that and about the biggest adventure we wrote about?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this now is on a different scale. Obviously, I've had graduated myself in terms of doing things on my own. And this special love to myself that I had organized, it was because it started when I was 35 years old. I had an amazing, my best friend for a long time, since we were teenagers, we've been best friends. She threw me a surprise birthday party for my 35th anniversary. And it felt so special. And it was like something that I knew was going to be memorable for me. And I started thinking, you know, you can't remember all of your birthdays throughout your life. Let's say you live to be 80 or 90 years old. It's impossible to remember all of your birthdays. So why don't you make them milestone and something easy to remember? Every zeros and every fives of your decade. So the zero is the entrance into a new decade. And what a better way but to start and celebrate this with a bang. I mean, when you think about it, we have fireworks and everything every time we start a new year. Why don't I do a firework kind of event for myself when I start a new decade? That's big. And then I'm like, the 5 is something I consider like the Wednesday of the week. We call it the hump day. So the 5 is the hump year of your decade. So the philosophy behind it is, actually it started from also a movie that I watched. I'm a big movie buff. And I remember watching the movie, The Bucket List. I don't know if any of you have seen it, with Jack Nicholson, Morgan Freeman. Story of 2 gentlemen who are diagnosed with cancer, and they decide to do a bucket list of things they wanted to do in their lives before, if they don't win their fight against cancer. And I remember at the end of that movie, I thought to myself, this doesn't sound right. Why should I wait when I'm older in my life to go and experience things that I cherish? So I said, I'm going to start right now this bucket list business. So between the bucket list and the milestone, I'm like, there you go, I have it. I can create something special every zeros and 5. So celebrating it with a bang. This is how I like to present it. Celebrating with a bang doesn't mean that it has to be a party with 200 people all the time. Celebrating with a bang means doing something that is meaningful for you, something that your heart will remember later in life. So 35 was the surprise birthday party. And then for 40, I've been wanting to go to Italy, and I decided this is it. I'm going to make it happen. So for 40, I took off 3 weeks by myself to Italy and Paris. That was amazing. So I like joy about romance in Italy because, it's amazing. When you travel, you meet people so easily, especially, guys, when you're traveling. So I got the Italian person too when I was there for the duration of the trip. So that was fun. So that was for 40, and it was amazing and off the chart. And then 45. Then at 45 was like, okay, I'm 45 years old, and all of my friends invited me to weddings and, this big celebration of love. And I'm like, I haven't been married yet. And I'm moving up in life. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna wait, because I've also always had this philosophy of not waiting after people to live life. You know, it's kind of like I go to the movie by myself, I go to the restaurant by myself. Like, I don't wait. If there's people with me, amazing. If there's nobody with me, amazing. I'm still on my agenda of living my life. So I'm like, well, there's nobody in my life right now, so I guess I won't be having a wedding anytime like soon. So I'm gonna throw my own wedding. I'm gonna marry me. Because there was also another something special about 30, 45. You know, they keep saying that in your 40s as a woman is when you are starting to feel more a sense of yourself, of getting to know yourself when you are in your 40s. And I thought, I'm in the hump of my 40s, so this is a perfect timing to do this. So I decided to throw my own wedding. It was super, super, super off the chart. So I decided that to make sure I did it as a wedding, I created this beautiful glittering invitation that I sent in the mail in April for my birthday in August. So I wanted to be sure that I was going to be in people's calendar for the summer events. And everybody had to be dressed in white. And so 2 weeks before, I sent a reminder to my guests about the upcoming party in the next 2 weeks, not to forget about the dress code. And now I've added an additional information. Everybody that was invited to that wedding were all people who were what I call like pillars of my life. People who were really meaningful, who brought something, long friendships, and people who are very meaningful in my life. And I said, I have one mandatory gift that I would like to ask all of you to bring. And I provided everybody in that letter that I sent 2 weeks prior to the event, paper and an envelope. And I asked everyone to write me, it was a mandatory gift, a love letter to me. I was like, you know, you hear often people saying beautiful things about a person that is now lying horizontal, if you know what I mean. And I'm like, I don't want the good stuff about me to be said while I'm lying horizontal, because I'm not gonna hear it. I wanna be vertical and hear all about this beautiful love. So I thought this is a great way to do it. And everybody wrote me beautiful letters. So I started with Toronto, and I had an amazing party at the Manulife restaurant on the rooftop. It was exquisite. I figured, you know, let's be on top of the world since I'm celebrating and I'm marrying myself. Let's do this high up in the sky. What a better place than to be on a rooftop restaurant. And everybody brought the gifts. And then at the end, nobody knew, but I surprised them. I picked up the bill. Everybody was like, oh my gosh. I said, well, this is my way of giving a gift to you. You know, because of all the love and everything that we've cherished through the years, this is my way of saying thank you and, you know, I love you. So, and in other ways, if this was my wedding, I would have had to pay for it anyway. So it was all fine for me to do this. And so that was on a Friday. And on a Saturday morning, I had rented a car and I took off for now my honeymoon and went to Niagara-on-the-Lake. I had rented a beautiful bed and breakfast for 2 nights. The place was gorgeous. And while I was there, I just treated myself. Things that I love to do. I went horseback riding, I went hiking, I went to the spa, I had massage, I went to winery, I had some fine dining all by myself with my champagne and, you know, my soul. I had a soul book, like a soul searching book with a lot of like inner soul searching that I was going to do during that weekend as well. And so those were beautiful 2 days. And then I closed that weekend by doing something that was on my bucket list. So on my way back, I stopped in Niagara on the lake and went skydiving. I said, why not? This was on my bucket list. So I did the jump. It was so much fun and liberating. If anybody wants to try it, I think it's an amazing experience. I call it, it's like being in an ocean of air. Imagine when you go swimming in the ocean and you have all this beautiful space around you that is infinite. So it's the same, because when you fall, you're always trying to hold yourself so you're not gonna hurt yourself. But when you just jump off the plane, you just let go and release. So that beautiful sense of freedom was amazing. And I decided in the following week, now I was repeating everything, but now with the Montreal crew. So did the whole restaurant, everybody dressed in white, the love letter. I didn't skydive for another time because this was already done. So this was just an amazing, amazing experience to marry myself, to love myself, I guess to find out that you don't have to go outside to find love. Often, you know, when you're a child, you know the Disneys and the Cinderella. It's always about something from outside that's going to come and rescue you and love you. And then, you know, you realize later in life that no, there's something different. You can love yourself. Actually, you should love yourself enough. You should be your own prince and princesses, whatever it is. And basically, this was kind of the vow that I had given myself when I married myself, that I was going to love me, I was going to cherish me, and I was going to stop always looking outside for that validation, feeling my worthiness and my love. So it was quite a magical time. And again, like I was saying earlier, something that was meaningful, you know, to celebrate. This is something I'm going to remember. To choose something meaningful. It doesn't have to be parties. It could be something else, something that means something to you.
Thank you, Nadine. I think that's a great reminder that no matter what kind of love we're going out there and experiencing in the world, it all starts with self-love, really.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to move on to our discussion, and I'm going to ask each of you questions, and you'll all have an opportunity to answer them. So my first question is, Mary, what was it that you were looking for when you headed out on your grand adventure? What was it you wanted to get from it?
Now you can hear me.
Yes, now I can hear you.
I wanted just a different experience of something that I knew I probably never would have an opportunity to do again, and that I had never done again with someone who was very special. And I had no expectations. I actually left home with zero expectations other than having an open mind and trying to be a good travel companion. And all my expectations were blown out of the water.
Amazing. Joy, what were you searching for when you were running away from your broken heart?
I was really just looking forward to getting away from the village and the gossip, and just a brand new experience in a different country, to experience something other than a small village life in England. That's all I was looking for. I wanted some validation that there was something about me that somebody could like, because, you know, when you're dumped in that manner, it does make you feel quite unattractive, and it leaves you quite miserable. So I think when I went, I was miserable, but that didn't last beyond the first day. So it was a very, very, very good journey. And it also opened the door to my love of travel, because after that, I just wanted to keep traveling, and I knew that I could do it alone. So there you go. It was wonderful.
Amazing. Nadine, how about you? What were you searching for when you initially came up with the idea to marry yourself?
Well, it was first to, I guess, celebrate and acknowledge that I was able to love me. Because as I said earlier, most of my life I've looked for love outside. And now it was to know that I was able to do it for myself. But not only just doing it for myself, because now I had all my beautiful friends around me. So I ended up overdosing on love. Because I had my love, the love of the presence of my friends, the love letters that I still have and cherish to this day, that I have in my, what I call my book of love. So, you know, to celebrate me, to know that, to know that I was worthy of it. This is what I was looking for. And I got it, plus, plus, plus more.
And that's my next question. Beyond what you guys, you know, were seeking when you embarked on your experiences and your journeys, what was it you actually received instead? Mary, how about you?
I think I received validation, much like Nadine said, that self-love is the most important thing. I think if I went into the trip expecting a marriage proposal, I would have been disappointed, because I don't think that's even what both of us were looking for at that time. And what I found instead was a really deep friendship that we had started many years ago, and it just had this long interruption that we were able to continue. And that was very valuable. The respect and the friendship is what I found and what I cherish.
Joy, how about you?
Well, I did find that I loved Italy because I've been back a few times since. I also found a man who was very attentive in the best kind of way, that kind of cherished me and made me feel quite special without that that feeling of falling in love. It wasn't that at all. It was just, we really enjoyed each other's company. And you know, Mary said about respect. He respected me and gave me a whole new outlook on my life. I came back a different person, a more confident person. So I did find a level of confidence in myself by going to Italy. And I also found that I love to travel, and I was okay to do it alone. So it gave me that the rest of my life.
Amazing. And Nadine, what more did you get than what you were seeking when you married yourself?
My love was enough, you know, because it was a big thing for me to looking outside all the time. You know, I'm someone who's been, I guess, moving a lot, like I'm a child of the system, as I like to call it. So you never feel love or that you're worthy. And this was finally a moment. It literally brought me peace. It brought me a certain sense of serenity, of knowing that I was enough, that my love was enough. You know, it's such a beautiful, it's a deep way to start a new chapter or continuing your journey, you know, because love is everything. So you would never feel content if you keep looking for it outside, which is what I had done for most of my life, you know. So I got what I was looking for and more, like I said.
My next question is, what did each of you learn about yourselves? What was your biggest lesson that you learned about yourself through your journey? Joy, let's start with you.
Well, I learned that I was brave enough to do that on my own. I didn't, you know, I was a really shy kid at that time. I was a shy child, and I didn't know that I had the guts to do that on my own. So I really learned that I had a level of bravery in me that I didn't know I had. All I wanted really was just to try and feel happy again. But the fact that I was able to do it, it was the start of solo travel, and it kind of got me on the route, you know, to keep traveling on my own. So that's what I learned about myself. I was quite brave when it came down to it.
Absolutely, I think so. Thank you for that. Nadine, how about you? What'd you learn about yourself?
That I'm capable of doing whatever I set my mind to, I'll make it happen. Get out of the way. Here I come. I found also that perhaps I would say I found my maturity in some way because of that shift. The perception also of myself, my self-perceptions, my self-worth had transformed throughout preparing this, because I was like, as I was organizing my wedding and my events and all that, spoiling myself, as I say, it made me, I felt a sense of a maturity. Like, I guess the woman in me was being more born. Like the young woman was, I mean, I'm still young, but there was this added wisdom that came from that particular celebration.
You, Nadine. Mary, what did you learn about yourself through your cross-country motorcycle tour?
Certainly learned flexibility to, kind of adjust to the weather, adjust to the circumstances, lean with the driver, honey. You got to lean with the driver. The pack light, and just to keep an open mind, because every day was so different, and the flexibility to just be able to say, okay, world, whatever you have in store for us today, we can handle it. And at the end of the day, there was so much to either laugh about, or we were just so exhausted from the fresh air and the exhilaration of going from point A to point B and unloading the motorcycle and taking our stuff in and, showering the dirt off and everything. I got the best sleep that I've ever had in my lifetime at the end of the day. So lean with the driver.
Thank you, Mary. Now I want to know what each of you learned about love from the experience, no matter which flavor of love showed up or several of them. Nadine, what'd you learn about love?
Love is always there. Love is always there around you. It comes from a state of mind. Love is there, it's around you, it's in the, and I was in Niagara, and then the flowers, the nature, the water, the waterfall, the people that you meet that wants to help, that wants to bring additional positivity and joy to your experience. The time that you spend with yourself, reflecting, all of this can all be done in love. That love is always there. We're never without love. When we think that we're without it, it's just because our mind, we just decided to close it, but doesn't mean it's gone. Love is still there, even if we're not seeing it or we're not feeling it. We just have to open our hearts, open our soul and our spirit and our mind, and love is always there. And it can feel sometimes almost like a little volcano of emotion when you really feel the love. So yeah, don't look for love, it's right there.
Thank you, Nadine. Mary, what did you learn about love?
That it comes in the most unexpected forms and unexpected ways. One particular day, this little boy came up to us in the gas station, and he just looked at the bike like it was the most, it was something that he cherished, and from his eyes, I felt just grateful to be able to have the opportunity to ride on that machine that he had that much love in his eyes for. So, it comes in different ways. And the relationship that my friend, and I haven't mentioned his name because I'll save that for the book, we had when we were very young was white hot love. I mean, it was the kind of love that you could see emanating from us as we walked. And so what I learned also is that that type of love matures very gracefully. And I was very appreciative that you don't have to have that same intensity to have that love.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, Mary. Thank you. Joy, what did you learn about love?
I learned that there is love after heartbreak. He made me feel attractive again. And I have to say that all the time I was in Italy on that holiday, I'm not sure I thought about my fiance at all, because I had this gorgeous man who was very protective, which I kind of wasn't used to in the village. The boys were a bit rough, or they could be, but he was very protective. And when we went in a restaurant and a couple with us, you know, were kissing each other, he covered my eyes and he said, "You mustn't look at that because you're too precious," or something like that. And I thought, oh, this is so sweet, you know, to be put on that kind of a pedestal. I'd never had that, but I just learned that, you know, there's love everywhere. And I certainly wasn't that heartbroken when I went back, because we knew we would see each other the following year. So that kind of kept me going, and definitely all the wonderful memories he had given me. Well, I mean, I'm nearly 85 and I still think about them. So there was something there, something very special and very innocent too. So yeah, I learned that you can love again.
Absolutely. And you can hold that innocent love in your heart forever. And maybe if you had not so innocent love, it wouldn't be the same.
That's right.
Now, I want to know what each of you learned about the world through your adventures. Mary, let's start with you.
I learned that some of the most special things are in the most simplest forms. You know, I already mentioned just the fragrance of the air. Sometimes I go outside and I smell something that I smelled along the way, and it reminds me of when we were either going, you know, through the Smoky Mountains or sailing down the highway from Virginia. Just those simple things, are getting caught in the rain and thinking under normal circumstances how much of an inconvenience that would be. But, you know, what else did we have to lose? We were on vacation. We had clothes to change into. We were not in a rush to get anywhere. It was just experiencing nature, just, you know, out there, vulnerable but protected. And so I just appreciated the simpleness, the simple natural gifts of life that we experienced every day. And certainly getting to the ocean and hearing the waves and seeing the sunsets, and, you know, what could be better than that?
I'm not sure. Joy, what did you learn about the world?
Well, you know, Italy was the first part of the world that I had experienced. And you know what Mary is saying about simple things, it's so true. And that's why I moved when I was 80 to a simpler life by the seaside, you know, to enjoy the things in the garden. But at that time, I hadn't been anywhere. And I just fell in love with that particular country. And I just thought to myself, well, if this is what it's like outside England, then I have to keep exploring to see what else is out there, because, you know, I met some lovely people on that trip, just, you know, all going for a holiday just like me. And I met a nice man, and I met his friends who were all very charming, and I ate different food, and I you know, come back. It was also different from my village in England. So when I came back, I felt more worldly, and I felt that I could do this again. And I did.
Amazing. Nadine, what did you learn about the world?
Have to get out of your living room to see differences, to learn things that are different. For example, I remember the first time I ever been to Jamaica, had a chance to go. I always love to go off the beaten path. I don't want to see the touristic stuff, because I feel it's like a set made for us to see things in the eyes, but it's not the authenticity of the country. So I was able to go with a Jamaican person off the resort, and I got to witness someone walking to go and get water. So there was all these houses that were like shacks, and I was told that this person had walked possibly half an hour, if not more, to go and get water. You see these things on television. You don't see this live. You have to travel to see these kinds of things. And what it brought to me when I came back here, and to this day, I don't let the water run when I brush my teeth. I have a different appreciation of, we have water right there. It's not hard. It opened, there it is. So now I have respect for it. I brush my teeth, I put a little water, turn the water off. So that's because of my trip to Jamaica. Another thing too, I remember I saw back then this elderly woman. She must have been up there in her 90s. Super strong, walking, going to the store to buy things. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, back home, not to sound like it, you don't see a lot of 90-year-old walking, you know, and I'm like, hold on, something's not right. And I remember from that moment on, not that I was someone who was taking a lot of medication, but I switched. I became someone who was more interested in naturopathic ways of healing myself. I didn't want to do the Pfizers and the Merck's drugs. I wanted to do something more natural because I've learned and I've seen this because I went away. I think that going in the world is how you can bring new perspectives into your life, and sometimes to the people who are around you who are not traveling. You can bring that to them as well. So going in, and it's a jewel of discovery and richness and differences, you know, that you don't get to experience, as I said, when you stay in your living room.
Absolutely. Now my next question is, if I could wave a magic wand and allow you each right now to relive one of the moments from your journeys, which would you choose and why? Joy, what would you choose to relive?
Oh, God. Well, for me, it would be walking into that dance floor and just being surrounded by all those beautiful dark brown eyes. I mean, it's never happened since. And everybody staring at me, and I just felt like a fairy princess. And I can tell you there's just one word, as John Travolta would say, it was electrifying. One moment. It was.
I bet it was. We all need such a moment in our lives. Mary, what moment would you choose to relive?
Probably my birthday. He didn't know it was my birthday until that morning, and my phone started exploding with phone calls and messages, and it was early, and he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, it's my birthday." And so he said, "You didn't tell me." I said, "Well, it wasn't necessary." And so when we arrived in Florida, in Jacksonville, which was our final destination before we turned around, it was late at night. It was about 10:30. He had called the hotel and arranged to have champagne and strawberries waiting for us. We had our own private concierge for our suite, and he welcomed me with champagne and strawberries, and then we had a nice evening out on the beach. And so it was just very memorable. So I'd like to relive that one.
Absolutely. Nadine, which moment would you relive?
Of that particular moment or any of my...
Of the journey where you married yourself and took yourself on your honeymoon, which moment of that journey would you relive?
Skydiving. That was pretty awesome. I think what was the highlight about the skydiving is that everybody that I was telling, I'm going to skydive, they were like, "Oh, you're crazy, what are you talking about?" Oh. So I was like, I need to be scared. Maybe I'm doing something dangerous here. So the whole time I was waiting for the butterfly and me being nervous, and and it never shows up. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not normal. Maybe there's something not right about me. And as I get into the plane, we go up. Nope, still no butterflies, still not nervous. I'm like, wow. And then the jump happened. This was a tandem jump, just to be clear. I was attached to somebody. So I didn't even choose when it was time to get up and jump. I was like, oh, here we go. And the free fall portion was amazing because, as I said, it was the first time I could feel free to fall without feeling afraid of hurting myself because I'm falling. And then when I reached the ground, the big aha moment that happened to me was, I was like, oh my God, how many other things have I stopped myself from doing based on a preconceived fear? Because a lot of people don't skydive. Why? Because of that preconceived fear. Mm-hmm. And it started making me, wow. So it gave me that sense of, I don't need to be scared. I can just go after what I really want in life, or whatever it is. You know, it was just a very big aha moment. What else have I stopped myself in life of doing based on a preconceived fear? So it was a haha moment, like my girl Oprah says, and exhilarating. I mean, you know, that's kind of like Wonderland on steroids.
It is. I'm going to open it up for questions from people tuning in. So if you do have a question, type it in the chat, but I do have a few announcements for you guys while you're thinking of any questions you might have. First is that we have our next JourneyWomen book club coming up. The book is called The Kitchen House. It's going to be at 7 p.m. on September 16th. So you still have time to grab the book and read it before that. Even if you haven't read the book, we do recommend that you come on and join one of our book club discussions because you can really get a lot out of it. We're going to be having a curator from Montpellier joining us for this particular book club session, so it should be really educational and informative. Hope you join us. The next we have, we are launching our JourneyWomen Circle membership next week. Now, all of the things that you're used to from JourneyWomen, all of our magazine editorial, Zoom calls like this, our book club, everything that you know about JourneyWomen and love about it will be free, but we are cooking up some additional services, including some discounts and other benefits. So look for more on that to come. And the last thing is that we are in the process of launching 2 new JourneyWomen Circle calls, that are Friday calls that we have in North America and from around the world right now. We're going to launch one in Australia and one in the Bali time zone and one in the West Coast. So if you're interested, send an email to info@JourneyWomen and we'll let you know the details as that rolls out. And finally, we have our September inspiration focused issue coming up. So if you have any story ideas, send them my way, amanda@journeywoman.com. Any questions from anyone before we let you all go off and enjoy your evenings? Haven't seen any come in. Oh, advice to young solo travelers. If you could offer one piece of advice to that young woman who's looking to get her feet wet and go off and explore the world, what would it be? Nadine, I'll start with you.
Go for it. You have to experience it at least once in your life. And I have a girlfriend that I always love to think of. She was married when she got divorced. She was always doing everything with her husband, and she was never traveled by herself. Said, give it a chance. And now she's hooked. I created a monster. You know, there's nothing scary. And the thing is, when you travel by yourself, it's so much easier to make friends wherever you're going, because there's always going to be someone that's going to come and chit chat with you. And when you don't have anybody with you, then who knows where this could go? You know, I have even made what I call travel friends. When I was in Italy, actually, I met a girl on the train and we were going in the same place. So we're like, oh, let's hang out. So we hang out in the town where we ended up ending. And then I was continuing my trip.
and we just said goodbye and exchanged phone information and moved on. I moved on to mine. She moved on to hers, you know, her journey. And so you need to allow yourself to do this once in your life, where it's all about you, you know. And it's people are gonna say selfish because it's all about you and you think about you, but no, there's nothing selfish, you know, about it. You do what you want, when you want, how long as you want. If you're going to the museum, you don't like what you see, you move away. But if we're with people, we're like, oh, yes, you know, you stay, you wait. When you're on your own, it's your own agenda, and you deserve to experience this at least once in your life. And especially if you're young and, you know, you're planning in the future to marry and have children. So if you have that window of time that you can do these things for yourself, you know, take that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Make it happen.
Joy, what advice would you have for a young girl who's sitting in her village somewhere and hasn't been to see any of the world?
Well, at this time of life, I'd say if you really want to go somewhere, you know, do your research. And if you're exceptionally nervous about being alone, a lot of women don't like to eat alone in restaurants, for instance, but I've got over that a long time ago. But it is a big thing for youngsters to go on their own. And one way to do it might be to take the bull by the horns and think about a special interest group. For me, I've been on so many knitting trips and I've been blown away by the whole knitting industry. It's so big. And it was an eye-opener for me, but you can be on your own if you're with people who have the same passion as you. You don't have to go along with everywhere they're going. And it's like Nadine says, you don't have to visit every museum. You can wander off on your own and do exactly what you want to do, as long as you're secure in the knowledge that you're going to be safe. And I think that's the main thing that people worry about. Am I going to be safe? But a special interest group worked for me many times.
Thank you, Joy. Mary, advice to a young traveler looking to travel solo for the first time?
I'd say do something close to your own comfort level, your own backyard, basically. You know, start out with maybe a 2, 3, 4 hour trip away from home in some place that's familiar, and then venture out from there. And certainly do your research. That's the first thing that I always say. If you do your research, you can go on some magnificent trips that look like luxury vacations for just a little bit of money. And that's my specialty. I like nice things, but I don't like to spend a lot for it. And I do that quite well. So stay close to home first, do your research. You can travel the world.
Excellent. Thank you, Mary. Well, I want to thank each of you ladies, Nadine, Joy, and Mary, for joining me tonight. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. This has been the Love Issue Behind the Scenes. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will look forward to next month when we will do Inspiration Behind the Scenes. Thank you all, and have a great night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.